Hey y'all, it's Dinosa again, and I'm going to do one more review before I call it a night, and just get ready to go to bed. uh, what a review I was going to do is something called, which been asked to do, and I watched a few episodes of this, was Duck Dynasty. Now, I know it's been a very popular show, and I think it's in its third, maybe fourth season as of yet. And at first, I was like, whatever, just another reality show, another thing, just like, and that's just that was my opinion. I was just like, this is a joke, this is a waste of time. Don't bother about it. But I was asked to do it, so doing it. And I watched the first 3 episodes. I watched the pilot, and I watched the 2 episodes after that. One was CEO for a day. Well, first one was really just introducing everyone to the family. The second one was the CEO for a day, which the main character lets the guy run the company. And the third one had to do with really, if you boil it down, to football game and taking a really big order. So, here's the thing. It is a family in Louisiana where a guy owns just a ton of property, got it probably really cheap 80 years ago when nobody cared about it, but this guy knew it, and all he did, the main father, is make duck calls. Well, this guy happened to be one of the best duck caller makers in the world. And people knew his name, and they wanted his duck calls, and he only did them by hand. And he taught his kids how to do it. So what they did was he started this business. He only sold a few. And then one of his kids went to college, figured out how to do business, and he came back, took over the company, and then turned it into a multi-million-dollar company. Okay, but here's the thing you need to consider. These are Louisiana rednecks, really, as the family goes. But it proves some wholesome points. The difference is these are not trash. See, the problem is when you use the term rednecks on that, most of the time it's associated with trailer park trash or something like that, and that's not really the case with these. These are just mountain swamp people. They have families, they care about their families, and they don't want anything to really bad happen to them, but they want to teach them some of the ways. And by nature, they're fishermen, they're hunters, they shoot ducks, and hunt ducks, hunt fish, everything. And as a hunter myself on that from a long time ago, I can kind of relate to where they're coming from and what they're saying. And I also understand the conflicts that arise in this. For example, the first episode, there was a conflict where they had to get an order done, and what happened was they shipped 1,000 of one type of unit when they needed to ship 1,000 of another type, which only had 3 of, which is the Trigger Master, I think they called it. And what happened is while the CEO kid who was running the show trying to figure out where everybody was, everyone else was out fishing or doing what they call beaver dam busting, which I guess in that area, it's beaver dam busting is because when beavers dam up rivers, it takes water away from the trees and the plants, and that's why they bust up the dams. And they hate beavers. It's not, they don't think, he said there are people who think they're cute, and in reality they're just a pain to deal with, and they're an enemy to this family. Which I've never ever heard. I always thought, beavers were always, just kind of in it themselves. They didn't really cause any problems. But this guy has been there long enough, he knows the problems these things cause. So he really goes out there to go bust beaver dams all day. And fish and hunt, and every time he comes around a beaver dam, he stops what he's doing to break it, because these beavers are relentless. And one of the scenes, one of the other old guys are like shooting in the water, which is like completely improper for this, but he's shooting the water thinking they shot the beaver. So I was kind of laughing at that, but at the same time, they're kind of they're exploiting, killing the beaver. But here's the thing: what you have to remember, these are essentially farmers and hunters. It is not uncommon to have a critter that may look pretty, but is not welcome in the area. That as far as that, the wine country, the Lodi, Sonoma, the biggest problem they have is rabbits. Is they'll come and they'll eat the grapes, and the grapes are worth a lot of money. And their solution is usually either dogs or hunting them themselves. And what happens is, and this is the way I've been told how most wineries do it, is they hunt the critters and they leave them, and then what happens is the coyotes come down, eat them, and then they chase all the others out in the area. Then the coyotes go away because there's no food supplies left. In this case with the beaver dam, that's not exactly what's happening, but what's happening is that the quality of life for the swamp is being interfered with by these beavers, and it's a detrimental impact to their way of life, and that's why they're doing it. So you have to understand, unfortunately, there's a choice to be made. As cute as they are, I went to Monterey Bay Aquarium. I saw them breaking the stuff, the shells with their thing. It was really cute and all, but to them, they're an enemy. So once you start getting beyond that, you start understanding where they're coming from. But what you have is a hunting, fishing, redneck family, and then you have the one prodigal child, which was a business guy, who is trying to get this order fixed. And what happened was he calls over to the operations, and nobody's there because everybody's out fishing, when he had to go find everyone. But he can't go find anyone because he has to go do a DVD video shoot about how to cook. And he himself doesn't really even know to cook, but he himself is all over the DVD and the catalog and everything, so he has to appear in it. So basically 3 hours of them goofing off with the video, they still got it done. But then his father, which was the main patriarch, the old bastard, which is classic, he is like the whole discussion is this. He says American cooking has gone so down because they got it down to such measurements. I say add some buttermilk, and they're like, how much? And he's like, add some buttermilk. And he's like, they're like, how much? And you see him, he's like, boom, there you go. And it was a nice way of presenting it, but he says, I'm a low-tech man in a high-tech world. Now, it's easy to say that also when he gets a fat check from his son for running the company like he is. But anyway, what goes on, and this is how crazy these people are, they're dealing with the DVD, but then word gets back, he's telling these people they got to make this order happen, okay, for this 1,000 order that was misshipped. And they get this idea like, well, let's test these new things, but we need a pond. So their solution is to create a pond out the loading dock. We're not talking about a mosquito problem here. I guess in Louisiana you're used to it. But they're making a pond for the ducks in the loading dock. And then finally the CEO gets back and he's like, you dummies. He said, the only reason why I haven't fired you all is because you're kin. He's like, you know, and you could see the frustration in his face. So then later on he calms down, and then he asks them, like, hey, did you try the pond thing? And they're like, well, we didn't get a chance to yell at us. So they went out and all tried it, and they said it actually worked out. It worked out for a good idea. But throughout it, it touches on the family and how, like, they all care for each other. And I did hear religious references to Lord and God. I wasn't too sure if they were Christian or some other group, denomination, or spin-off. Hard to say, but well, I didn't see any crosses, I'll put it that way on that, but that could also be because they're out in the wild hunting. Oh, and get this, Before they had to do the DVD, they had to go frog hunting. And the guy's like been up for 36 hours. He's got 1,000 of these items over, and he's out frog hunting. And he's like, he cannot believe the group he's with. He's like, what am I doing with these people? And that's kind of how that all sets up the whole family, where it's conflict. Now, in some retrospects, it's a lot like OCC or Orange County or American Chopper, where American Chopper was built around the father and son basically yelling at each other. This show is built about the old father, who is a wise patriarch, and the young son, which is the business genius, and the kind of the merging of the old and the new ways in the major corporate America. So it's a real neat twist. I haven't seen him get into an argument. I don't think there would be much of an argument, because the old guy usually has some points of wisdom. One of the things he hates is like little cell phone video games, which goes on to the next episode, episode 2, where they're all duck hunting. And throughout their duck hunting, the CEO kid keeps bringing out his phone and working, and they're like, put the friggin' phone away. We're out here hunting. What are you doing? And he's like, I can't do that, and you know, I got a job to do, and I got all this. What are you going to do? You know, really? So he finally puts it away, and then they go duck hunting, and he finally bags a duck, and they go back and bring back the ducks. But this particular episode had to do with not only duck hunting, but it had to do with a football game. And the football game, or no, the CEO, like what happened was during dinner, his younger brother was running his mouth saying like, oh, I'd be a great CEO, I'd be this. And he's like, fine, you be CEO a day and I'm not doing jack. Good luck. Well, he tries, and the younger brother, one of them is like 7, tries to go out and, be a CEO. And before this occurs, the brothers, they try to have a talk about it, said more's expected of you, and they even try to build a redneck conveyor belt powered by a Chevrolet to help speed up production. But what they did is they found themselves throwing things on it and trying it faster so they could do stupid stuff like launching carts off it or chairs. But the idea was sound, but they didn't do it. So, I think I'm mixing episodes. Yeah, I am. I'm mixing episodes here. So basically he tells him to be CEO a day while the real CEO, does other things. And it's really hard for him as CEO because he thinks he's doing well and he's coming up with all these incentives and games. And then they find out where one of the uncles comes and says, you see all those boxes? Those are supposed to be gone today. What's going on? They're like, oh crap, we didn't do it. So they threw them all into a semi, and the uncle tries to drive the semi to the distribution point. Well, the distribution point is closed. So they're stuck with it till the next day. But while this chaos is going on, there's a family. The father of the son brings the grandchildren out and says, okay, you're going to clear this field. Which this is kind of cool. He says, you clear the field, and all these kids' faces are like, this sucks, I want to go home, and this sucks. And the grandfather's plan is he's going to turn this whole thing into a football field. So he gets the kids moving logs and everything. He's like, I love it having grandkids. Anytime you got something heavy, call them. And which is kind of mean, but true. So they move everything out of the way. So then he calls up his gardener friends. You got to blow all these leaves and trim and cut.